We got Genevieve Wood, the former RNC spokesperson. Genevieve, if I'm those, I don't want to call them ancillary candidates, but not the main top lead candidates, I'm trying to knock out my fellow ancillary candidates, right? I want to emerge from that ancillary pack as the winner of that division, right?
Yeah, sure you do. But it's showing very clearly, Neil, that money, you know, it isn't everything in politics, and apparently you can't buy an election, even though we hear that all the time. The people spending money here aren't able to break into the top tier. I would say the one place you may actually see money making a difference is in a place like New Hampshire, where John Kasich, we've seen in the last couple of weeks, has come up, I believe, to number 2 in most of the polls there, and that's where he has spent all of his money, close to $11 million. So when it's very narrowly focused, all in one place, maybe it can make a difference. But I think that the message out of this election is that people who have a ground game, people like Ted Cruz, and people who have a very clear message, anti-Washington, are the ones breaking through.
You know, it's kind of weird, because I have another theory on money and whether it helps or hurts you. I think money, as a basic, will help you. But it will punctuate a point. It won't close the point or close the deal. So if you've got a persuasive argument, you've got money behind it, well, that's a great 1-2 punch. Do you think Ted Cruz, whose campaign certainly isn't short of funds, and Donald Trump, we know he's a billionaire, he hasn't spent much money, that they have that ability, that if need be, if they had to go back to their resources, they certainly have it?
I think the numbers show that they have it. I think what's going to be interesting coming out of Iowa is how much of a difference campaign structure makes. We don't exactly know what Donald Trump has. We do know that Ted Cruz has been building a ground game there, one in South Carolina, and the early states for a long time. So I think that's what we still kind of is the unknown in terms of turnout, which will be very important here. And a lot of that has to do with money. Do you have the funds to get volunteers on the ground, get them where they need to be?
Right.
All of that. But I don't think there's any doubt that Ted Cruz and Donald Trump obviously have that.
You know, I can remember as a kid the phenomenon of George McGovern when he got the Democratic nomination in 1972. One of the things that was raised at the time, remember this distinctly, and you read about it in history, he had a lot of support among young people. You know, overwhelming. Democrats typically do, but his was off the charts. And the argument would be, boy, they get to the polls, it's going to be crazy. Now, we know in retrospect Richard Nixon went on to win a landslide re-election, but not before some of those polls were much tighter, and not before some pollsters were surprised to see that young people didn't come out in nearly the wave that they thought. So it gets back to a Donald Trump question. He has huge rallies. A lot of people will come out just to see him. I'm wondering if similar numbers will come out to vote for him.
Well, I think, Neil, you're not the only one wondering that. I just don't think we'd know, because we haven't seen a campaign like Trump's, and I don't know if we've ever seen one like this.
Good point.
But look, people do show up in very cold nights in Iowa and places like Vermont to see Donald Trump. And so, you know, they may very well show up on caucus night as well. We don't know. But look, I mean, even people like Bernie Sanders, I mean, if you go to the other side of the aisle, he's bringing in a lot of money. And again, it's not from major PACs or donors. It's like $27 average gifts. A lot of those from young people, but it's making a difference, and I think in the early states, it's obviously making it tight for Hillary.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting, because there's so many unprecedented and historic developments going on concurrently. Genevieve, thank you very much. We've got the Dow up over 210 points, still early. Anything can happen.